Well, here it is, finally, my Venus retrograde report. So this beginning part is going to be sort of my point form, abstract themes that are all going to be covering because I have so many notes, it's insane. Venus has been in Gemini since the beginning of April, and we're not going to be out of the effects of Venus in Gemini and the retrograde until we hit about the first week of August. So because it is Venus, it is about partnership. It's about love. It's about all kinds of relationships. The ideals of love, the mystical, all of the different forms of love that have been articulated by the ancient Greeks. It's an amazing time for creativity. It's an amazing time for art, for poetry, for music. This is also a great time for digital communication. So if you're developing apps, software, there's a synergy happening between Venus and Mercury. And so anything that has to do with social media, especially social media, this is a great time for YouTubers. It's a great time for people promoting themselves on the internet. It's also a great time for learning, education in your particular field, whatever that is. Training, reviewing, upgrading your credentials. Excellent time for study. But this is the idea phase, the brainstorming phase, so that when the planets are moving forward again, we have all the information that we need. We've gathered all the tools necessary, and we can now proceed with a far more refined, reorganized, and workable plan to move forward. People who are on a spiritual path, who are stepping into their gifts and abilities in this regard, those who are seeking a deeper communion with the divine are likely going to find it. And then, the more vain things, because it is Venus and Venus is retrograde, it's a really bad idea to do impulsive haircuts, hair color, tattoos, all of that kind of thing. If you're going to do that kind of thing, it's because you've been working with somebody for a while on your design. Otherwise, you're really taking a chance. Be very careful about things like identity theft, especially if that's something that you've already been through. Venus in Gemini is going to stimulate a need for more freedom in relationships. So open relationships, all sorts of new sort of alternative ways to conduct relationships in this day and age. And, these things are already happening, but they're definitely going to get more support. Gemini is all about social. This is the season of the sapiosexual. So intellect is going to be an important factor in attraction. It's really not the best time to start a relationship. And in fact, it seems as though the theme of this particular Venus retrograde in Gemini is the kind of thing that's actually going to break relationships apart. We're looking at a lot of temptation towards toxic habits such as codependency, deceit, betrayals, acting out, and the danger zones for acting out are going to be anywhere from the last week of May through until mid-June. And again, there's this tendency towards impulsivity. And indiscretions, infidelity, love triangles. All of these things are definitely possible. It's not about preventing karma. It's about focusing on the karma that we've come here to deal with. If your relationship is not sturdy going into this transit, you're probably going to be dealing with a complete and total breakdown. But it's important to trust that this is divinely orchestrated, that whatever is leaving, the better you get at letting go of it, the faster you're going to get to your next destination in your story. The other kinds of low vibrational things is going to be entitlement. It's going to be acting out under the stress of being confined for so long. I'm also anticipating that by the way that the astrology is working, that something is going to happen in the collective that's going to actually make the lockdown even tighter. If we learn not to become attached to certain outcomes, we'll see that there's been a natural course of events that have been set into motion. So depending on your sign, the focus is going to be maybe a little bit different than somebody else, but these are just the general themes that we're all passing through right now through the collective. So how that applies to you is going to be your personal experience. It's ultimately your choice as to how you want to deal with the energies that are present for you now. So when we get to the mid-June zone, things are going to get pretty uncomfortable for most of us. That uncomfortability is about moving us out of whatever we've become too comfortable with. The other things that we need to be careful of is how we're dealing with truth in our lives and whether we're sticking closer to wishful thinking. But what all of this is bringing us to our sense of our own truth. We know what truth feels like. We know when we're living it, and we know when we're not. Venus retrograde in Gemini is going to encourage reason over passion. At the end of the day, self-love leads to better relationships across the board. Self-care is everything right now. And the more you take care of yourself, the more it's going to change the energy of all your relationships. It is your responsibility to put yourself first. We're all at different stages of learning, and it's going to be important through all of the tension that we're all going to be feeling to be compassionate to each other and to not get stuck in that thought pattern of, I'm in this all by myself. We are all walking a similar path. We're just expressing it in different storylines. So there's my all over the board themes for Venus retrograde. I'm going to be covering a lot more of these dynamics when I hit the new moon in Gemini report, when I hit June's report. We're going to be talking about Venus retrograde all summer long. So stay with me and enjoy your reading. Hey Leo, and this is your very specific Venus retrograde in Gemini tarot reading. So the first thing I'm going to tell you, Leo, is that this Venus retrograde in Gemini is happening in your 10th house of friends and communities. But there's a few other details that I also found for you. This Venus retrograde may have began for you with a mini crisis with long-term financial goals. So this period of time for you is going to be a time to reassess your financial long-term situation and make the proper adjustments, because it's going to take a while to realign them into wherever it is you're going. So work is going to be a little harder for you, and you're probably, even regardless of how locked down you are at this moment in time, it's like this is not a social time for you necessarily. As much as you may be missing your friends, you're having to work harder, and you're having issues with communications, you're having issues with neighbors. But out of this phase, you're going to emerge into some new groups of people that may just become your new community. This new community is likely to spark your creativity, so that's kind of exciting. So that's what I have specifically in terms of the astrology. But I'm going to get to the tarot. And so we're looking at my tarot deck. This is the Klimt deck, and I'll be clarifying with, there we go. And I'll be clarifying that with my regular Rider-Waite. And then I'm going to get some symbolism from the Lenormand, as well as check out what chakra you should be focusing on for this time. So that's 3. I need 6 more. And 3 more. There we go. So what are the surrounding energies for Leo? for this Venus retrograde. Ooh, the moon. So you, like other signs, are going to be affected by the lunar cycles over the next little while. So we're looking at the new moon in Gemini, which is coming on May 22nd. And then we also have a big lunar eclipse happening on the 5th of June. Very volatile aspects for that one. So you may want to watch for things. Okay, so at the center of your reading, we have the Three of Cups, which is about celebration. And it's also about reconnection, reunion with people. But let's take a look at some of the energies that we have here. We've got the Five of Swords, so some arguments. And the Ace of Pentacles and the Knight of Wands. So could have been some arguments over a new beginning for you with a fire sign, so Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Yeah, that there's confrontations afoot. And then for now we have the Queen of Pentacles, the Three of Cups as you, and the King of Swords. So there may be an earth sign in your life that you're marking some boundaries with. That there may be a reconnection with them, but that there are new boundaries in place. Whether you're articulating them or whether they are, I don't know yet. And I may not know. We'll see what the cards have to say. We've got in your future the Ten of Cups, so that's full and total emotional fulfillment, but also defending boundaries and possibly more confrontation. So you may have people around you who are not respecting your boundaries, or who are triggering a defensiveness. Whether this is you or someone else, I'm going to give you this to think about. In this particular deck, we've got the Seven of Wands is set up like this. And the guy he's got a knife aimed at, theoretically, one of his demons. So it's like the knife becomes a sword on this card. And it's kind of like there's one thought or one track of thinking that you're going to need to let go of so that you can stop with the confrontations, with the fights. Although, you know, no judgment, this may be a time in your life where you really do have to fight for things. But at the same time, there's power in surrender. And that may be one thing that you may want to consider. So let's get some clarity on the celebration part. Let's you know, focus on the good stuff. Ah, look at that. You being yourself. So perhaps you're the one who's facilitating the celebration with an air sign, possibly. Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Or it's some sort of reunion. But there's something that you're not seeing. There's a gift surrounding this situation that is still not within your view. So let's take a look at this Seven of Wands in terms of defensiveness and fighting off demons. Could be travel, but if it's not travel, then it's recovery. So, yeah, and then there's you being all strong. So maybe it's this one thought that once you get past that one thought, everything opens up and you regain strength. The strength to surrender. Oh, I love it. Oh, that's really, really good. Let's get some advice on the Five of Wands in your future. So yeah, you might have one more round with these lunar cycles. Or it could be that the argument will lead to the change of thought, which leads to the recovery, which leads to the opening up, which leads to the strength, and leads to a soulmate. And the resolving of a very intense karmic situation. This star is coming up for almost everybody. So it's like crises, arguments, defensiveness. All of these things are leading towards a revelation, are leading towards an opening up of your situation. But you're definitely being you, which is, you know, if this is happening in your house of friends and community rather, then, this could be their response to you putting yourself first. Just a thought. But ultimately, you're learning through this process that when you do put yourself first, really good things happen. And you feel a lot stronger about everything. Okay, so we've got clouds, coffin, and rider. So, so if this does mean a death somewhere near to you, my apologies and condolences. Death can definitely make people move quickly, which is what the rider card suggests. And the clouds is that there's kind of a fog around this situation. That basically, there's confusion. But when something passes or ends completely, that movement can happen once again. So this time is likely to be very confusing for you. There's going to be reversals back and forth. Happy, fighting, happy, sad, happy, defensive, happy, and then we'll go into the next cycle. So let me just see what's at the bottom. Lily. But this is leading to greater maturity. There's a little bit of luck coming into play. And yeah, it's definitely a dynamic time for you. So let's see what chakra Leo is dealing with for this period of time. Oh, there it is. Ooh, third eye chakra. Who needs me when you got this? So third eye chakra, your intuition is becoming finely tuned through this process so that you know how to lay out boundaries in a healthy way and in a way that protects your energy so you can see everything that much more clearly. So I hope you found that helpful, Leo, and have a great day.